welcome to Things That Matter. It's a program that explores different issues that we believe are important to young people, to adults, to the community at large. And today I'll be speaking to Kitso Matlhape, who in a minute will introduce herself. Kitso, can you tell us who you are? And we'll take it from there.
Good afternoon, Botswana. Hello, everyone. Hi, Madi. Thank you so much for having me here, first of all. It's so good to see you. I have not seen you in forever, and I hope that we will reunite soon. But short story about who Kitso is. As already mentioned, full name, Kitso Matlhape. I was born in a small village in Botswana called Bobono. And quickly after my birth, my mom went back to the capital city, to Gaborone, to live with my dad. And I went to nursery school at Little Kingdom, somewhere in Extension 12. I think they're still there. I think I drove by there before I left Boston. They were still there. Went to Little Kingdom and then went to Hillcrest Primary School in Block 3. In 2005, my mom got a job in Francistown, so she moved there, and I followed her the next year and went to complete the rest of my primary school education at John Mackenzie Primary School, and then I went ahead to their high school to do my O-levels. From there, I went to the University of Botswana. I have a very funny story of being there, and I actually wanted to be a medical doctor, so I did pre-med for a year, and I was so depressed and just like desperately looking for inspiration. And I just knew at that point that even though I left high school, I had done amazing in high school. And I think every single young person who was in high school, try your best to do very well, because that's the only way I was able to change my career path, because I could qualify for other courses within the university that had a higher threshold for admission. But when I was doing my BSc at UB, I just knew that even though I want to help people, I don't think natural science was the way that I could do that, just because it wasn't inspiring for my mind. And I have a funny story about how I ended up going into law. When I was it was 2011, 2012 that time, and Madao was actually litigating the Ligabibo case, the registration of the society. And I was following that for so long in the media, and I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And when that case was won, what happened in the university, UB is kind of like its own little country and its community. You have a whole lot of young people who are being open-minded and have some independence of their own. And so the impact of that decision and that victory was really felt in the school community. And that moved me. That was my first feeling of civic urgency and just like some critical consciousness now that I've found the language for what happened then. But I was completely inspired by what she did there, what she did at court. And I thought, well, if I want to help people and change the world, I think social science is what I might want to do. So I applied to the Department of Law with my O-level results. I didn't apply with my UB results. And you could do that, which is why I emphasized, working hard in high school and kind of getting your grades. That year, I know the threshold, people had done very well that year. And so the threshold for getting into the law program was so high, but I had done well in high school and that afforded me the opportunity to be able to do that. So I switched programs and went to law school and finally felt alive and fun. In my 4th year of law school, I hunted down Dow and Associates because I was like, that's where that woman that inspired me worked. She started the firm. I remember being on TD's back, like going there every week, being like, did you see my CV? Did you see my CV? I dropped it off 2 weeks ago and finally got an interview and did an internship there one winter. And then I stayed on for my final year of law school. But that is basically a story of my time in Botswana.
I mean, that's really, really interesting. There's so many levels. First of all, I really do hope John Mackenzie students are listening, because, I mean, you are, graduate from that high school. I'm sure they will relate. So I think, of course, every young person in the world should be listening. But first of all, I know that I met you through email when you first contacted me and said, I'm interested in a program at the UC. But I didn't realize that you had been in my life or we had been in each other's lives even before that, without actually an obvious connection or just so I want to tell us a little bit about the Habibo case, because I think especially in these times. Last night I was watching one in a South African program, ENCA, that was called ENCA, and there was the story of Two Men in a Wedding. It was called. It was talking about this two Malawian gay men who got into real trouble and end up in jail. So when we talk about Habibo, can you tell us a little bit about the Habibo?
Yes.
Really interesting.
Yes, that was a very interesting case. I mean, at the time, you were not even asking the court to legalize homosexuality, which is something that happened just recently. But at the time, you're just asking the court, we want to register a society. And the registrar of society said, we can't do that because then we would be complicit in a crime, something that is a crime right now in Botswana. And it was a very frustrating process. I think as a young person, at the time, I didn't even know how that would go, because at the time in Botswana, we were still growing towards more open-mindedness, and we didn't know how that would go and how the court would interpret what that law is and what that situation is. But to see, like, that case was very impactful for me in real terms, like seeing how people were impacted. And when the court read the verdict and said, the critical issue here, the question is whether they can register the society and not whether homosexuality is legal or illegal or criminal in Botswana. So that was like an incredible, they unpacked it in a very incredible way, and it was argued in a very incredible way. But that's also how I knew that, my mind wants to be able to do that in court. I think lawyers are just very important people in the framework, in our social fabric, and for things like Le Habibo, basically.
And I have to say that was the last case I argued before I joined politics. It was, interesting in my life for other reasons, because after arguing the case and after winning the case, then I was on the other side and I was part of the cabinet, so probably won't go at this point, that's a topic for another day. But also what I found fascinating as you were speaking was that you said you did pre-med and then it was switched to law. I did a few months of pre-med before, actually I went to law as well.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time ago. But I remember thinking, I'm not too sure my brain is wired to do all this stuff. I mean, I had, I had the grace to go in, but after a few, I don't think so. I think, I want to talk, I want to argue, I want to, go into social sciences. So that's really, so it's interesting that, so many years later, we kind of follow the same path, but now you are in the United States of America.
Yes.
And the last time I met you was at a dinner event. And what fascinated me was that you came to this place, you were able to convince, I think one of your bosses and the people you're working with, so I felt that you were well respected in the space that you were in. And speaking to the people who were working with you at the time, I was impressed by this young woman from Botswana who went to the US for a 4-month program, but was still there doing more than just, what she thought she could be doing over there. So can you tell us more about how you went to the United States of America, what you are doing there,
yes.
And what you can share with young people about career paths and sticking with them?
Yes. So I think I'll start here first. I've always been the type of person who, even though I don't know where I'm going or what I'm going to do next, I just put myself in an environment that might inspire me to the next level or next opportunity. And working at Dow and Associates worked out in that way, because that's how I found out about UC. I saw all your pictures and all the certificates and things from UC. I'm like, what is University of Cincinnati? So I looked it up. I looked at their website and I saw your name on it. I'm like, this is a real thing. And, if she's on it, it's definitely legitimate. So I reached out to Tanya Hampton, who was she was the program manager for the master's program at the time. And I mean, they're phenomenal in terms of like really helping international students understand the process and getting everything in. So I started the application process. It's always a grueling process to apply to for school internationally. You're writing personal statements, you're filling in so many things, preparing so many documents, and I have a little black binder that sometimes I dream about losing, and I wake up at 2 a.m. to look for, because everything is in there from the day I filled in a form wanting to go to university, and my visa stuff and getting here. Everything I've accumulated is in there. But I did that. I applied. I asked for recommendation from the head of the department of the law school, who was very willing to do that. Again, because I was always that student who put myself out, be outspoken, or just be curious and be willing to learn from people. That's helped me, because I mean, my story, it's obvious I didn't always know where I wanted to end up, but putting myself in a position to be helped and be able to receive help has been a crucial and important part of my personality. So I did that. I asked TD for a recommendation, and he gladly wrote one too. They told me that he wrote a stellar recommendation. I didn't get to see it, but I appreciate him so much. I got to UC the next year, and I knew I had 1 year of a master's program, and I had a game plan. Another thing is to forward think, be futuristic about your steps in life and your future. So don't just think now, this year, but I was thinking, I have 1 year. What courses can I take that would maximize everything that I could learn and that I want to touch while I'm here? So I did specific classes. I decided I want to do business law concentration, so I took specific classes, but I also knew I might want to take the US bar exam, so let me take classes that might be, that have credit, like they're required for you to be able to sit for a bar. So I did that, balanced it out, and then I took part in a lot of activities, moots in the law school that get you meeting with attorneys, experienced attorneys, people who've written treatises and books on law and journals and all sorts of things. I just knew that the more people I meet, the more I learn, and the more opportunities and doors open for me. It always works out that way. I always tell people, if you prepare for an opportunity, when the opportunity comes, you are prepared and you will be the best candidate to be chosen. So I did that. I went to Hong Kong for the international. Yeah, I went to Hong Kong for the International Commercial Arbitration Moot. That was an incredible, huge experience. I mean, I had no idea that was that big, but all schools were there. Harvard students, Yale, Stanford, Chicago, like from all over the world, from African universities, Asian universities in Europe, and some great authors who have written books on international business transaction law, because that's like a murky space since there's no concrete law and it's not comprehensive, but it's a growing space. And to be there and sit with people who are at the head of arbitrations and international trade arbitrations was just so inspiring. And travel is an education on its own. So being in Hong Kong and just seeing this country, I didn't imagine that it would look the way that it looked, but it was incredible. It was a huge country. I mean, the population, every time there was a crosswalk, it would be like the whole population of Botswana crossing the road to the other side. A lot of people. But things like that always blow my mind. I'm open-minded and excitable. And that's how, even at the firm, when I met you and came to the event, when I heard that there would be a dinner, I wanted the managing partner, or whoever wanted to come, but I sent out an invite to the managing partner and some of the partners on the executive to say, you know, this woman has really impacted my life. I would love you to meet her. And I told them just what you've been a practicing attorney and been in all 3 branches of government. So they were just like, wow, that's incredible. And they were just very happy to be there. But again, it's my ability to get in a space and adapt and learn and be positive and be open-minded affords me the opportunity to have symbiotic relationships with these people and have their respect too. So that it was great to see you. I hope you come back again.
Okay, thank you. We're going to pause here for a minute, and when we come back, we'll pick up the discussion from where we left off. I like what you said about community, about connections, and about focus. I think that's really the story of your life. And so when you come back, you may actually share with us how old you are, because it sounds like you're this old lady who's done all these old things. But I think young people want to know that there is, there are many young people like them who can do this great thing. So we come back, if you like, just tell us how old you are. Welcome back. We're talking to Kitso Matlhape on Things That Matter, brought to you by TDA Teleradio Station. And we're talking about really what influences your career paths, how you stick with, what you're working on. We're talking about focus, we're talking about connections, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about always being prepared if you want to forge ahead. So when we broke, when we, went on break, I suggested maybe you want to tell us how old you are.
I will. Okay. I will be 27 in how many days? In 20, is today the 1st? Today is the 2nd?
Yeah.
In 19 days, I'll be 27.
Yeah, I thought the world should hear that because I really think it's impressive what you've been able to accomplish, by age 27. When you look at, honestly, when I first received that email from you saying, would you support my application to UC, I had in the past supported about maybe 5 other Botswana students who've been there, the 4-month program generally. I had received in Botswana more than 25 interns from the US, over the years. I joke that if I were to be sued by anybody anywhere in the US, there has to be a lawyer there somewhere willing to defend me. I hope they're listening. I hope that, that is true. But what are you doing now and what is in your future?
Yes.
Because remember, you're 27, you'll be 37, you'll be 47, and then 57, and then 67, and then 77, and then 87. And then, God willing, you'll be 97. So there's actually more years ahead of you than where you come from. What are you planning to do with this great future in front of you?
Yes. So currently I am in the JD program, the Juris Doctorate program at UC. So after I did my master's, I worked for a year at a law firm downtown in Cincinnati, and incredible experience. I mean, when you're dealing with a population the size of the US and the magnitude of the cases that they're dealing with, it was just mind blowing to have to work on those things. And then I decided after that, I don't think you can learn enough or specialize enough if you want to be impactful where you're from in a year. And I decided to go back to get the JD, further my education, and get a little bit more experience and ingrained and grow my network. So I went back. I'm getting a JD. I actually saw Bert last week walking out of the law school, and he's excited to be back.
Who's Bert? Who's Bert?
Bert Lockwood.
But the world doesn't know who Bert Lockwood is.
Bert Lockwood, oh my God, the greatest man in the world. He runs he runs the Human Rights Clinic at the University of Cincinnati. It's called the Urban Morgan Institute for Human Rights, and I'm currently an Arthur Russell Fellow under that. And that's afforded me a scholarship, more money on top of what I got to afford my education. We do incredible work. We edit amazing articles. Being able to read the pieces that people write about, socially and civically urgent issues is one of my favorite parts about being at UC. It's an incredible thing to get to read those pieces. But he runs an amazing institution in that law school that he's great. He is great, and he is a very good friend of Madao.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just maybe to chip in there, I've known Bert now for more than 25 years, I guess, because the Urban Morgan Institute of Human Rights was a key partner when I was litigating the Dow case. So that's really how I met Bert Lockwood, and how actually my relationship with the UC started and has been maintained over the years. It's around the issue of human rights. Yeah. It's about this resource out there, these incredible young people, law students who were able to do research for me when I was doing the case. So yeah.
Oh, sorry. My little dog is being a little rascal right now, but we'll ignore him.
All right.
Yes, so I am at UC finishing up my JD, and I also got an amazing opportunity at the end of last year. Again, a very crucial part of networking is a friend of mine sent my resume to a partner at Deloitte. Deloitte is probably the biggest professional services firm, also known as accounting firms, but they do so much at this point that they are a professional services firm. So he sent my resume to a partner at Deloitte, who then was like, "Wow, this little lady is brilliant. Let's get in touch with her." And they sent a recruiter to call me. I had a very short conversation with the recruiter, and she was like, "Oh, I love you. I have to set up interviews with some partners in different departments of the firm." So 2 weeks later, within 2 weeks, I did 3 different interviews. And then one evening, one of the partners sent me a text message and said, "Are you busy?" I was like, wow, on a Friday at 6, I'm not really busy, but she called and she said, "Congratulations, we would love to work with you." So I have been there since June, and I'm going to be done on Friday. It's going to be my last day, but I do know that I have been offered a full-time position for after I graduate to get work experience. And I heard about that this morning. So
Congratulations. Congratulations. And I mean, it's amazing. And one of the reasons we do this show, especially with young people, is really to show other young people that it is possible. If you're focused, if you have great networks, if you're committed, and if you're willing to invest in relationships, then it is possible. We're going to pause here for a little while. When we come back, we'll wrap it up about your future, and we'll also, talk about something we cannot get together not talk about, COVID, and how it's impacting our lives.
Yes.
So, in a minute, we'll be coming back, but this is Things That Matter. Thank you again, and welcome back to Things That Matter. We are talking to Kitso Matlhape, a girl from Botswana, now a young lady in the United States of America, a lawyer, and a young lady with an incredible story. Just before we went on break, we were talking about personal paths, how you get onto that journey and how you stay on it. And I think you shared a lot about that.
Yeah.
But, I'm thinking many people will say, Kitso is successful, or so-and-so is successful. And I often think, that may mean different things for different people, or we may think about differently. What comes to mind when you talk about success?
As you had mentioned before, it's a very personal thing, and it has to start within yourself. First, decide that I want this and I'm going to get it. If I need help, I will get help, but first I will start within myself. So self-actualization is one of the key ingredients to success. And I think for me, just to boil it down to one thing, I think success is being authentically yourself wherever you are planted or wherever you choose to plant yourself. Be authentic and stick to your true path and live out those passions. And it's so critical. I think a huge part of my success has been the connections, as we spoke. And I've just met a number of different people along my path that I never take for granted. And I don't meet them intending to use them or anything. They become relationships where at the end of the day, this person cares about Kitso as much as Kitso cares about them. And so whenever there's a need or an opportunity, Kitso is at the top of their head, or that person is at the top of my head, because I know they can do this best. So being surrounded is also an aspect of success. And one way to garner support for yourself is to show up for yourself first, so that when you show up in front of someone, you have started the process of succeeding first on your own. I was telling you, Madi, that I did a talk with Creo Consultancy recently. We went live on Facebook, and a lot of students wanted to know how to get to the US. And so I spoke on a number of different things, and I spoke on network as a very important thing. And I think I've seen a lot of inboxes of people come to me, I want to do this, I want to get there, how do I do this? And one thing that I would say to people at this point is, whenever you approach people for help, and something that I've practiced and I still practice today, whenever I go to one of my friends who is a successful attorney to help me, I bring my resume or a complete application, a complete email to say, I want to do this. This is what I have done so far, but I need help. I'm not sure if everything is lining up. Can you look over it? It's so important, because that, to me, is you have started the process of succeeding within yourself first. And it's so easy for people who have been along your path to help you when you have done that yourself. You don't have to recreate the wheel, but they also don't feel the burden of now your entire life is in my hands. So a crucial part of success is being a self-actualizer, being a person who can carry themselves first.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I often say that, often, here in Botswana, often we talk about what we want a wealthy nation. Okay. But I often say for there to be a wealthy nation, there have to be wealthy individuals within the country. When a
Yes.
successful country, for there to be a successful country, there has to be successful individuals within the country. And so, when you talk about self-actualization, I think that's very important. And I often say that for that to happen also, we must build on relationships. We must understand that you cannot be successful alone. You cannot, be wealthy alone. You cannot be healthy alone. And so community is very important. And building those relationships is very important. And I think what's very clear from your story and your path to where we are at today is relationships, community, networks, leveraging on what you know, and also offering your own knowledge as well, not just so sharing knowledge as well. I think that's very important. And but we cannot end this discussion, Madam Kitso, without talking about COVID and how it has impacted us. I'm here in Botswana. You know, vaccination rollouts are still very slow. There's also anxiety about, getting COVID. I think I would say most of the 60 plus people have been vaccinated, not so the younger population. So, how has COVID impacted your life, and how are you hoping to build back stronger from COVID?
Yes. So for me, COVID started, I was here and I was alone. So when they declared a state of emergency and we all had to stay in our houses, and you could only leave if you're going to the store to get food. But even then, it was very scary because everything ran out. Like the stores were empty at some point because people hoarded food, and also just being scared to go to the store at the time. So a lot of people would order. You can order delivery, so the store will deliver to you at a price. I think it was $9 at the time. And even that was backed up. Like you would have to order food a week or two in advance to get your order of food. So it was scary. It was very lonely at first last year, just in the house every day for months on. And I think after about 3 months, that's when I started to go outside at least for a walk. There were very few people on the street, so I would go and walk. Also, because I'm here and my family is in Botswana, that was a lot of anxiety for me, because I felt like I hadn't seen anyone in 3 years, and you're anxious. You don't know what this thing is and how it's going to impact you. People have lost their family members, and I had that anxiety that, I haven't seen my parents in so long. So I spent a lot of time on WhatsApp video calls, making sure I check on everyone and spend time with everyone via video. School-wise, that also impacted how, like, the ability to even stay in the US. At some point, I think international students thought we would have to leave the country. That something went on last year. The president was like, well, if you're not enrolled full-time, you have to leave. And so that was a very scary moment. Like, how are we going to get there? There were no flights. So it was a tough time for everyone. I mean, in the US, thankfully they put an eviction moratorium on some of these apartments where people could not get evicted and be on the streets. But that impacted economies in a very major way too, because landlords have mortgages, they can't pay them, but they also can't evict people. It was just a balancing of interests at the time, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. Currently, it's still in the US. I feel like because a lot of people, at least where I am, have been vaccinated, it feels like it's behind us. There have not been a rise of. I checked the stats. I think last week, if since we opened back up, we're outside and we're doing things like it's normal. If COVID numbers have been rising, but they have not been rising significantly. I think a lot of people who have been affected by the Delta variant are people who refuse or do not wish to get vaccinated. At a personal level, it's still a little anxious because my entire family is still in Botswana and no one is fully vaccinated yet. So I'm certainly just praying and hoping that that rollout kind of happens quickly and soon so that we all are safe.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we hope. That's what we hope. And I think when we look at the US, we look at UK, look at Europe, because they got that COVID ahead of us, and therefore they're also vaccinated before we did. So in a way, when we see life beginning to come back to some kind of normal, gives us hope that we too will get there. But I think let's not end on a pessimistic note. Let's believe that when we next talk, will be on the other side of COVID. But it's been great talking to you. So if there was one last word that you want to say or one last advice to young people here at TDA, remember the Dow Academy is a primary school, the secondary school as well. So every year, 18-year-olds are thinking, what am I doing next? I know already in what you've said, you've already covered, but just one sentence, one word, one paragraph, one phrase. What would you say?
I would say right now, as a young person, if you do not know where you're headed or what your next step is, or you're thinking about that, just put yourself in spaces and environments that would inspire you. Be around people, be in places, attend events that have value, and you just never know what would happen in that moment that would light an idea, an entrepreneurship idea, or that would open up an opportunity because you met someone that would be important in your life at that point. So be in spaces that could inspire you.
Thank you very much. On that, we will close this program, Things That Matter. And the guest of today was Kitso Matlhape, a very important young voice. And there are many important voices out there. We'll be reaching out. And if you think you are one such voice, please don't hesitate to go to our Facebook page and let us know. Things That Matter from TDA Teleradio. Thank you.